Scotland is becoming more multicultural. I think we have people from so many different ethnic backgrounds, socially, and I love that. I love that we are so diverse. But I think sometimes we don't know how to communicate the gospel and with people from different cultures because they have different assumptions about reality, they have different assumptions about life. They have different assumptions about God. And sometimes if we're used to sharing the gospel with people who think like us, who are maybe from the West and are westernized, there are certain things we say or certain things we put forward about why Jesus is amazing that people from other cultures might just be like, that doesn't sound that great to me, actually. So I think before we start engaging with people from different communities, it's important to understand where they're coming from. So doing quite a bit of listening before we speak. What's your story? What matters to you? Tell me about your culture. What is the things that your culture values? So some cultures really, really value community. And so they see things through a community lens. In the West, we see things through an individual lens. And so when we talk about the gospel and its implications, it's Jesus died for me so that I can live a fulfilled life, so that I can live a life without sin, pain and suffering in the new creation. So the I. But if you're sharing the gospel with somebody from a culture that values community, to them that just seems so, well, that's nice for you, but what about my family? What about my community? What about my village? And so what does the gospel have to say to communities? That's just one example. So doing a bit of listening, just asking a lot of questions, asking what they think about Christianity, because they might have some assumptions about the Christian faith based on where they've come from, that we might need to say, oh, actually, Jesus is not white. Well, actually, the Bible doesn't actually say that. Actually, Christianity is a lot more than cathedrals. So we might need to, say those things because that might be the only connection they might have to Christianity. So a lot of listening, a lot of conversation, a lot of dialogue. And that means we have to intentionally live in such a way that we are authentically communicating and living and being friends with people from different communities. So not seeing them as projects to be converted, but image bearers to be loved and to be communed with. So listening, and then once we listen, we can now connect. We can now start to see, how does Jesus speak into their longings? How does Jesus connect to some of the things that they long for? They might long for justice in some capacity. What does Jesus have to say about that? How does Jesus maybe challenge some of the things that they would hold dear, but that actually are destructive in their lives? And so once we understand people's cultures, where they're coming from, what they value, we can see how Jesus, because if we believe that Jesus is a God of the nations, which he is, anybody from any tribe, language, social group can become a Christian. There is a passage that reminds us of this in Revelation. So Revelation chapter 7 verse 9 says, "After this I looked, and behold, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes with palm branches in their hands." This is a vision of the new creation. In the new creation, there will be people from every tribe, tongue, and language. And so this is the God we worship. He is triune in nature. He is diverse in and of himself. And so diversity is at the heart of who God is. And so actually connecting God and Jesus and who he says he is to anybody from any culture, we should be able to do that if we just look outside of ourselves and our echo chambers. And so, so being able to connect the God of the Bible with some of the things that we have maybe discovered from their cultures. And once we do that, I think we can then say, by the way, Jesus is for you as well. He's not just for the people in the West. He is for anybody from any tribe or any language or any nation or any culture, any sex. He is for everyone, because I think people sometimes assume that it's just a westernized thing. It's just for people who've got their lives sorted. It's just a white thing. And so actually being able to show people that they need Jesus, he's amazing, and they can be Christians too, and they don't have to swap their culture in order to become a Christian. They don't have to be less black, less Asian. They don't have to adopt a whole other subset of cultures from the West to enter the kingdom of God, because they can come as they are to the triune God who is diverse, and find forgiveness and find hope and find joy and find real life in the God who made them and who cares for them, in whose image they're made. So if we are looking to share the gospel with our friends and people in our communities that come from different cultures, listen, hang out with them, get to know them, connect, show how the gospel connects to their culture, their stories, and then point them to the Jesus who is the God of the nations.